Good morning. I'm alive and I'm talking about being calm, and I lost my whole picture thing. I know there's two people waiting. I'm sorry I couldn't get back in. Look at my hair today. It's coming in curly all of a sudden. I had very curly hair when I was a child. And now, as my hairdresser says, it's trying to curl, but it's looking flat. What a morning. I was talking about keeping calm under stress. Well, I tell you, nothing is like stress when you go to click to get on live and everything's gone. They won't let me in. I don't know what I did, what I didn't do, etc. So it's very appropriate today. We're talking about staying calm when crisis happens. And that's the emotionality. And I know that some people, one person's found me, which is great. I know because it comes up, and I've had this happen once before. I hate it when it does because I have no idea how to get back in where I've gone. And of course, it happens 2 seconds before I'm supposed to be back on air, and I look up, where am I? What am I supposed to do? So I have to go redo everything. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about today was how to stay balanced and how to stay calm when crises happen. What happens when something happens to us that we really don't want? We end up being very emotional. And the key is to be able to hold the emotions from taking over. Me panicking because I can't get back in to complete what is sitting there waiting for me. Is a prime example. When we recognize that no matter what, everything always works out. And that is a philosophical element. And a philosophical element that I had created probably because I had a lot of stress going on at certain times in my life with some of the businesses I was running and deadlines and, kids, household, all that, balancing everything and not getting overwhelmed by all the things that have to be done, but being fairly orderly. And that has helped me a lot in my life as to what needs to get done and making sure it is done when it needs to be done. Not because of some deadline or something else. It's like making sure everything runs smoothly. I find this really, I'm still laughing to myself actually, because this happened once before when somehow or rather I lost contact and I couldn't get back in and I had to restart everything. And then a lot of people were waiting for me and I wasn't there. And I came back in later, which is what I've done today. And it's kind of an interesting day because my son's up for the weekend and we're taking a little bit of a journey to get him back to the airport for him to fly back to Vancouver. So we're going on a little bit of a thing. And I just want to say, and I'm going to interrupt this, Maggie G found me. Thank you. Good morning, Norma. And thank you for being here and have a wonderful day. Blessings. I know because the other says they're waiting for me to show up, but I have no way to get back in on that. So I have to restart all over. But it's nice that you found me, Maggie, for sure. Now, when crises happen in your life, because they do, usually unexpectedly, let's face it, if we expect it, it's not going to be a crisis. When something unexpected happens, what tends to happen, the emotions kick in and we get a little panicky because it's like, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do now? How do I handle that? What do I do? And maybe sometimes many answers run across your head as to what you can do and what you can't do and how to bring it about and how to make it happen or make it not happen, etc. Life creates many situations. I found as I've moved older in age, less crises. But during my 40s, when I had kids and house and business and everything, sometimes crises came up, but I handled them very easily because you're always looking for a solution. You go for the solution. As you get older, it's not as easy as that. Your nervous system, I think, is a little worn out, if I can say another word there. And as it's worn out a little bit, things get put a little bit more. Like I know I panicked a little bit this morning. I went, why can't I get back in? What happened? What did I do? What did I move? Still have no idea. And it's like what happens is it takes over. Like there should be a solution here. Why can't I find the solution? Well, the solution is I have to start all over again. and put everything in. So that's what life does. Now, what I had done was actually pull a couple of tarot cards to kind of give me a little bit of a heads up as to how to go here. And for those of you that know tarot, I'm just going to tell you the three cards that I have sitting in front of me here. The World, which is all about balance and everything being in its, you might say, its proper or right place, whichever word you want to use there. Now, the King of Cups is the attitude where there is emotionality and you're stabilized within that emotionality and you use your knowledge, your mastery of life to deal and cope with everything. And then the Nine of Pentacles, where everything is in its place and everything is balanced and orderly. And in a way, that's exactly what happens. We have everything in order, and then emotionally, we get lost around a little bit, because that's what can happen to emotion. Emotion is not static. It moves. And sometimes it's rough and sometimes it's smooth, but it's always moving. You're very seldom static when it comes to emotionality. Things that you feel, things that you relate to, things that you want to have happen and maybe don't have happen, all those kind of things. But what I like and how this unfolded with the Nine of Pentacles, where everything is in order and in place. There's a lot of information in that Nine of Pentacles, because not only the grapes of abundance, but the hawking, which in the old England they used to do a lot, in the people who had monies, etc. There's lots of little symbolism in there, and also how the symbolism is put together. Where when you take a look at the Pentacle row, the Five of Pentacles, which she's got one hand on, is actually when you're out in the cold. And the Three of Pentacles is where you need to work with things. So the symbol, and as all nines are actually, I find that it's the tens, which is the one again, usually has more of a completion than the nine does. The nine kind of has a little edge to it, because nines are endings. Nines are endings then. Now, the Nine of Pentacles is more of a fulfillment until you really look at the symbology there. There's everything is there, and then there's a big but. But a lot of things is not perfect. It looks perfect, but it is not perfect. And so that takes us back to the King of Cups, where the emotionality is happening. How do we handle our emotionality? Over the years, when you're in full, raising families and working with businesses or having a job even, there's a lot of chaos at times can happen. And yet your nervous system, we'll say, can handle it much more in your 30s and 40s than, say, 60s and 70s even. So there is a whole element here of that balance, which the World is the first one that came up, to maintain the balance and the awareness that nothing is an end. It's always a continuum journey as things go and work and how you want them to be. So sometimes it's good to sit back in your life and look around and say, where are the points where maybe it needs a little bit more attention or a little bit more work or a little more understanding, so that when crises are going to come from that area, you know how to handle it. It was really good this morning having my son here, because he's always calm, and he may not always feel that way, but to me it is. He says, Mom, just cancel all that out and start again, which I knew I had to do, but it was like, why can't I do a shortcut here? And I just couldn't figure it out. So calmness, keeping a person calm. So how much is your calmness? That's the other thing to look at. How do you remain calm in all the things that are happening and going on? What really kind of you might say rattles your chain? What gets you going and getting? And I know when I am pretty organized, always have been, and when things are not quite as organized as I want them to be, I can get frazzled now, where I would never have done that even 10 years ago. I can get kind of a little bit out of shape, you might say. So I'm really careful to make sure that everything is done. There's time waiting, because, when I do these live shows, I have a beginning time, but, I've already set it up, and then I'm waiting for the time. And so in waiting for the time, then it's like just everything's calm and everything's nice, and I know where I'm going, or I trustingly know where I'm going. so that it all comes into being. The same things when I have clients, because we work through Zoom mostly, is that I know the time, I know when I need to be ready, and I'm ready. I do a lot of pre-work with my clients on things. So it's like I'm ready. And so there's a calmness in that, a calmness that gives you a sense of being in command and control of your life and what needs to be done and where it's going. So what I want you to do is think about, where do you not become? Where does calmness leave you? Where do you feel a sense of, what am I supposed to be doing and where am I going? So that you can make allowances for shifts or changes or things to happen, and that you know what you do. I know this has happened to me before, when all of a sudden I lost everything and I couldn't get back in. And I did kind of panic at that time. Well, I would have panicked a little bit this morning too, because I was getting frustrated, because I like to be on time and I know I had people waiting, which was wonderful. I like that. And so it's, how do I say it? It's really about being flexible, being keeping your emotions in check so you don't kind of freak out, because everything goes in order. So that's what the Sunday thought is about. What sets you off? What gets you emotional? What doesn't, when things don't work the way they're supposed to? Because we do have a plan in our heads that say this is supposed to work this way. So I want to wish you well today. I'll be back tomorrow night, trustingly, making sure everything works right, at 7 with mental mind treatments. And then, of course, Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock with a bigger, more effective talk. You have a great day. Enjoy this Sunday, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye now.